It was the last week of senior year. Finals were done, yearbooks were signed, and everyone was counting down the days until graduation. No one was really doing work anymore. We were just watching movies in class, hanging out, and soaking up the feeling of being almost free. Our school had one final field trip lined up, a visit to an old historical mining town 2 hours away. It was supposed to be something fun and educational. A last hurrah. The morning of the trip, we packed into yellow school buses with scratched-up windows and busted seatbelts. Teachers looked half asleep. Nobody was paying attention to the rules anymore. The ride was loud with people laughing, blasting music from portable speakers, taking selfies. I remember my buddy Jason sitting in the seat in front of me, already making bets about who could sneak off from the tour first without getting caught. The mining town looked like something straight out of an old Western movie. Wooden storefronts with faded signs, rusted wagon wheels propped against cracked walls, and dust coating everything. It had that museum feel, like it was meant to look untouched but had obviously been cleaned up for tourists. There were mannequins dressed as gold miners, plaques explaining blacksmith tools, that kind of thing. The teachers gave us a short speech about sticking with our groups, then handed us off to a tour guide who looked like he'd been doing this job since the gold rush itself. Jason and I stuck with the group for about 15 minutes before slipping away during a bathroom break. Nobody stopped us. We were 17, practically adults, and too bored to listen to another speech about ore carts. We wandered down side alleys and peeked into boarded-up buildings. Some were still sealed shut, but a few were wide open. One alley behind the old jailhouse caught our attention. It was narrow, just a gap between two sagging wooden buildings. Jason spotted a half-hidden stairway that led down beneath the jail. "Bet you $5 there's treasure down there," he joked. I rolled my eyes but followed him anyway. The wooden steps creaked like they were going to snap under our weight. The air turned cold as we went down like basement cold. At the bottom was a heavy wooden door, slightly cracked open. No signs, no chains, no ropes. Jason pushed it gently, and it creaked open, louder than I thought possible. Inside? Pitch black. No windows, no lights. Just a hollow silence. We turned on our phone flashlights. The room was made of stone. The walls were rough and gray, and iron bars lined one side like an old jail cell. Rusted tools hung from hooks, some I didn't recognize. A pickaxe, a chain, something that looked like tongs but twisted like claws. Then I noticed it. There was a crumpled blanket on the floor, a water bottle, a single sneaker lying on its side. "Dude," I said, "someone's been down here." Jason made a dumb joke about ghosts needing hydration. I didn't laugh. I was already starting to feel like we were somewhere we weren't supposed to be. This didn't feel like part of the tour. No placards, no velvet ropes, just silence. And something about the air, it felt heavy. Like there was something breathing with us. We turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind us. No wind, no footsteps, just bam. We both screamed. Jason ran to the door and yanked the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "It's stuck!" he shouted. I tried kicking it. Nothing. That's when we heard it. A soft clink. Metal on stone. Like something being dragged. Jason whipped his phone around, shining the light toward the far side of the room. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound brave. No answer. Another sound, this time closer. Clink, drag, clink. Jason whispered, "Someone's back there." I held up my phone and saw it. A second door, smaller and more rusted than the one we came through. It looked like it had been welded shut, but now it was slightly open. Just a crack. "I swear to you, that door was sealed when we first came in." Jason's voice broke. "Let's go! Now!" We rammed the main door again and again until finally the old latch snapped and the door swung open. We didn't even stop to catch our breath. We sprinted out of the basement, up the alley, and didn't stop until we were standing in the center of the fake town square, back in the sunlight. I remember looking around and realizing how fake everything felt now, like we'd pulled back a curtain and seen something real underneath. When we told the teachers what happened, they laughed. "Maintenance tunnel," they said. "Probably just some storage room." Jason and I didn't say anything else. That night when I got home, I was still rattled. I kept thinking about that second door, the sound, the blanket. Why was there no lock on the outside of that room? Just as I was about to go to bed, I got a text from an unknown number. No contact, no name. It read, "You found the wrong room." I stared at it for a long time. I never replied. I don't even know if replying was an option. We graduated a few days later. Everyone was taking pictures and hugging and throwing caps in the air. But I couldn't stop thinking about that basement, that moment. that thing we almost saw. I haven't talked to Jason in a while. He doesn't respond to messages much anymore, but every once in a while when I think about that day, I wonder what was behind that second door, and why wasn't it locked anymore? It was our high school's first time making it to the state semifinals in over a decade, so the energy was sky high. We were the underdogs, just a small suburban soccer team who barely scraped by in regionals, but we'd made it. The game was scheduled for Saturday, which meant a weekend hotel trip 2 cities over. No school, no parents, just our team, a few coaches, and way too much teenage adrenaline. We rolled into the hotel on Friday afternoon. It was one of those 3-story roadside places with a broken pool and vending machines that only took exact change. Not fancy, but it had beds, cable TV, and best of all, freedom. I roomed with Darren, our goalkeeper. We got along well, both of us more into staying up watching YouTube than sneaking around. But a few of the guys were rowdy, already throwing water bottles across the hallway before dinner. Coach tried to lay down the law. Lights out at 10, phones off, no wandering? Everyone nodded, then immediately ignored it. Darren and I stayed up until around 12:30, watching scary videos on TikTok and trying not to laugh too loud. That's when the fire alarm went off. At first, we thought it was part of the video, just a sound effect. Then someone pounded on our door hard. "Get out! Everyone out!" We scrambled to throw on shoes and grab our phones. The hallway was packed with confused, sleepy kids, all heading down the stairs and pouring into the parking lot. It was cold and damp outside, and we stood there in sweats and t-shirts, barefoot on the asphalt. No fire trucks, no smoke, just a weird mechanical wailing from the hotel's alarm system. After 10 minutes, the coaches came out and said we could go back inside. One of them was arguing with the front desk staff. The verdict? Someone had pulled the alarm on the 3rd floor. Only one problem. The 3rd floor was supposed to be closed for renovations. The elevator didn't even stop there. During check-in, they told us to avoid it, said it was unsafe, stripped bare, no electricity. So how had someone pulled the alarm? Darren and I shared a look. He said, "Dude, we have to check it out." I wasn't so sure, but we were already breaking curfew, and curiosity overruled caution. We waited until the coaches went back to their rooms, then quietly slipped out. The elevator didn't go to 3, just like they said, so we took the stairs. At the top, a metal sign read, "Construction area, do not enter." The door was closed, but a wedge of light glowed from the crack beneath it. Darren pushed gently. It opened. The hallway was almost completely dark. No ceiling tiles. Wires dangled like vines. The carpet had been ripped up in patches, exposing gray concrete underneath. Most of the room doors were hanging open, their interiors just bare studs and dusty debris. But there was one room at the end of the hall where the door was shut tight, and under it we saw a soft yellow light. Darren whispered, "That's the one!" We crept toward it. Every step echoed too loud. When we were 5 feet from the door, we heard it. A cough. It wasn't a normal cough. It was dry and slow, like someone who hadn't had water in days. We froze. Darren looked at me and mouthed, "Was that real?" I nodded. The door creaked open slightly, not all the way, just enough for us to peek inside. That's when we saw him. A man sat on the edge of the bed wearing a black suit. No tie, shirt unbuttoned at the top. He looked normal, like someone's uncle at a wedding. Except his face didn't move. His eyes didn't blink. He just stared at us. There was no reaction, no surprise. He didn't tell us to leave, he didn't speak, just sat there in the glow of a small bedside lamp, completely still. Darren tugged my sleeve. "We're going." We backed away slowly, then ran. When we got back to our room, we didn't say much, locked the door, got into bed. Both of us stared at the ceiling in silence for a long time. I kept thinking about his face, not scared, not angry, just watching. The next morning, we went to the front desk, tried to ask casually if someone was staying in that room on the 3rd floor. The woman at the desk gave us a confused look. "We don't have any occupied rooms up there. That floor doesn't have power." We pushed a little harder. "Like, is anyone working up there? Construction crew or something?" She shook her head. "No, it's been shut down for months. Why?" We told her sort of. Just that we heard someone, and the alarm came from that floor. She stared at us, then picked up the phone and made a call. We couldn't hear much, but the tone in her voice changed. She looked uncomfortable. Later that night, Coach told everyone to stick to the buddy system and not to leave the rooms without permission. No explanation. But he didn't argue when we said we wanted to switch to a first-floor room. We lost the semifinal game the next day. No one was too upset. It felt like the least weird part of the weekend. Darren and I didn't really talk about what we saw again, but I know we both remember it. Because that room, the one with the glowing lamp, the maid bed, the man in the suit, it was real. And according to hotel records, that room didn't have a bed, didn't have a lamp, didn't even have electricity. Our 10th grade biology class had a tradition. Every spring we'd take a 3-day trip to a remote nature center near the mountains. It was supposed to be a fun, immersive, learning experience. We'd stay in cabins, hike trails, identify plant species, that kind of thing. No cell service, no Wi-Fi, just trees, dirt, and group bonding. I wasn't thrilled. I liked nature fine, but being cut off from the outside world with 30 other teens and a bunch of overly enthusiastic camp staff didn't sound ideal. Still, I figured it'd be an easy A and a chance to hang with friends. There were 6 cabins total, 3 for students, 3 for staff, and chaperones. Each cabin had bunk beds, creaky floors, and that permanent damp smell you can never wash out of old wood. Our group's assigned staff member was a guy named Josh, probably in his 30s, big beard, calm voice, the kind of guy who wore a flannel shirt even in 80-degree weather and had a stare that lasted a little too long. He was the fun one, constantly telling us corny wilderness jokes and teaching us how to use compasses, even though none of us ever asked. The first day was fine. We hiked, we journaled about moss, we learned how to make safe shelters out of sticks. That night, we gathered around the fire pit while Josh told ghost stories, most of them dumb and obviously made up. But then his tone shifted. He said there were real stories, 2 stories of campers who wandered too far from the trails and were never found. The mountain, he said, has places that don't show up on maps. Sometimes people go in, he said, grinning, and something else comes out. The group laughed it off. I didn't. There was something about the way he said it, like he wasn't trying to scare us, just stating a fact. The second night is when things got weird. Our cabin had 6 of us. Around 9 p.m., my friend Jenna said she was going to use the bathroom. It was a small building about 100 feet away. You had to bring a flashlight because the trail wasn't lit, and the bathrooms didn't have windows. She grabbed her light and left. We kept talking, snacking on trail mix and whispering about who was dating who. After 20 minutes, she still wasn't back. We thought she was messing with us. Jenna loved pranks. Someone joked she probably got mauled by a bear, and we all laughed. But then 30 minutes passed. Then 45. I went outside and called her name. Nothing. We tried to walk to the bathroom ourselves, but when we got there, the building was empty. Now we were worried. We found our teacher, Mr. Ellis, and told him Jenna was missing. He seemed skeptical at first, but when we insisted she hadn't returned for almost an hour, he agreed to help us look. We couldn't find Josh. Mr. Ellis led us down the main trail toward the edge of the camp, calling Jenna's name. After about 10 minutes, we found her flashlight in the dirt. It was broken, like someone had stepped on it. Then we noticed something worse. A footprint. Just one. Deep, distorted. Larger than anyone's in our group. And it was pointed away from the trail. We turned to Mr. Ellis. Josh was gone. He hadn't shown up for the evening check-in. His cabin was empty. No note, no explanation. The other staff, also missing. We returned to camp in a panic. Mr. Ellis radioed the local sheriff's department, but they were at least 2 hours away. That night, we were told to stay inside our cabins and lock the doors. Around midnight, someone knocked on our cabin door. 3 soft knocks. No one said a word. We were all awake, frozen in our bunks. The knocking came again, this time louder, faster, then silence. No one opened the door. At some point we heard rustling outside the cabin, footsteps moving around the walls, circling. Then, just outside our window, we heard breathing, heavy, deliberate. It stayed for a few seconds, and then faded away. The next morning, Jenna was back. She walked into the camp by herself. Her clothes were soaked. Her eyes were red, distant, like she hadn't slept. We rushed to her, asking what happened, where she'd been. She couldn't answer. She looked right through us and whispered just one thing. "Don't trust the staff." Mr. Ellis helped her to the main cabin and stayed with her while the sheriff finally arrived. They searched the woods for hours, nothing. No sign of Josh. No sign of the other guides. Just the single broken flashlight and that deep, out-of-place footprint. Jenna eventually came back to herself. but she never remembered what happened. Not after leaving the cabin. Not even how she got back. The school shut the trip down that day. They pulled us out, refunded the program, and issued an official statement blaming logistical mismanagement. The nature center quietly closed the next year. No one ever found the missing staff. And Jenna? She transferred schools a few months later. I messaged her once, asked if she remembered anything. She left me on read. Sometimes late at night, I think about the way Josh said it that first night around the fire. Sometimes people go in, he said, smiling, and something else comes out.